Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Around the Indoor Football World. And as you can tell, we have Krish back this week, so it should be a lot more entertaining show than it was last week. No offense, TJ. You and I get along very well, so there wasn't a lot of conflict in last show. So let's hopefully we don't offend anybody, but at the same time, who doesn't like a good spirited debate? So on that note, if you haven't watched this show before and you're joining us for the first time, we cover all the major indoor and arena football leagues in this show. So we'll be talking about the IFL, the AF1, the NAL, the TAL, and the AAL as well. Maybe even some AIF stuff in there. We'll see how things go the rest of this offseason. But without further ado, we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So, Krish, how are you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back from exile. We got a big one tonight against Tulsa. So, we just got to oil up and go down and handle business. That's all.
That's right. Oil them up and run a train and all that fun stuff. TJ, how you doing this morning,
man? I'm doing good. That comment threw me off. I'm not gonna lie.
It's always something with Krish for sure. So, man, there's a lot to talk about this week. Specifically, a lot that came out over the past couple of days involving the AF1 in Oregon. Normally we don't start on the AF1, but I feel like today might be a good time for us to start on their topics in particular. So if you guys haven't seen it over the past, literally, I think 48 hours roughly, there was an announcement made that the AF1 had to unfortunately cancel a game between Oregon and Kentucky, but that really just started the whole mess that has come from this whole situation. Essentially, they put out that statement very quickly. The Oregon Lightning turned around and said that, hey, that's not accurate. Like, why are you trying to spin this? And blame it on us, et cetera, et cetera. Essentially, Chuck Jones from Oregon started sharing some screenshots, showing off tickets that he had purchased and kind of showing that he was trying to make an attempt to travel to Kentucky. And then over the couple days afterward, more has started to come out from other teams, including maybe a statement from someone within the Oceanside organization that sent some information to Fred Elliott that he had posted, as well as potentially some issues with Michigan not paying some advertisers, or I believe was a merch vendor?
Merchandiser.
Yeah, that's right, merch vendor. Okay, so a lot to unpack there all at once, and obviously not the kind of news that we like to kick these shows off with. We obviously don't want the negative information out there, but at the same time, it is everywhere right now, so we wouldn't really be doing our jobs if we didn't discuss it. So, I mean, what are you guys' feelings on this? Let's go to TJ first. I know you got a lot to say this morning.
I mean, it's just frustrating as a fan of the sport. It's like this is repeat year after year. Insert new league, insert new team. It happens every year. I get sick of it, especially with the AF1, man, because you look at the leadership that league has. You have Jeff Fisher, who has decades of football and NFL experience. You have Jerry Kurz, who is one of two people on this entire planet you can call Mr. Arena Football, and they still can't get it right. It's like, how does this keep happening over and over again? I just, it's annoying. They came out, they wanted to be, instantly from day one, the Premier Arena League back on the scene, and this is what happens. It's I have no idea what's going on with Michigan. They should be this weekend now should be their like party weekend. They just beat Albany, the first time ever in AF1 history somebody beat Albany. And instead they're clouded with, what was it, like 10 or 15K in merchandise owed and stuff like that. You got Oceanside, who apparently is on the verge of folding. You have Oregon, who just announced maybe they're I don't know. I saw an official statement they folded. Then their ownership comes out and says they're planning on continuing to play. Who knows? It's a mess. I think that what this showed was it is better to start off slow and steady than instantly try and splash onto the scene. It's like, I mean, and honestly, in the specific arena football space, you have the TAL and the AL. TAL started off small. They've systematically grown little by little, and you don't really hear too many issues from them. The only team that has technically left their league from inception went to a different league, but they're still in play. And then you have the AL, who everyone wanted to bash. Oh, they only have 4 teams, everything else. How are all those 4 teams doing? Are they still playing? Are you hearing negative? I think you have to start off slow. They just tried to come into it so fast with 10 teams, tried to get it instantly into double digits, like back in the second iteration of the AFL. The only difference was at that point they had the AF2 to basically take all the teams from, because the AF2 was still in play, even though the AFL. So, they tried to repeat it. This is what's happening. I feel not try to search for more teams this offseason. I think however many teams last this season, they should just try and actually have a whole season where there's no major failures or teams folding midway through the season. Make that a first for your league's history and then expand.
Right. And one fact that I did not throw out there that had been mentioned or hinted at is that Oregon would be forfeiting the rest of their games for the remainder of the season and essentially throwing in the towel on the 2026 season. But yet somehow there was talk that they would be back for 2027. So kind of a bizarre situation. But Krish, you have said on multiple occasions that there were going to be monetary issues in Oregon. We've kind of hinted at it. We've talked about it. We knew that Chuck was doing everything in his power to make it work, but at the same time, he's one man, on a regular person's salary. So what are your thoughts on how the situation has unfolded, and how do you feel about everything in hindsight now?
Yeah, it's funny, he wanted to come at me, slide in my DMs talking about, integrity of the show, this and that. I haven't heard from him since, but my thing is, like, I'm it's not like, oh, I got you type deal. You hate to see this happen. Oregon has so much talent, both on the offensive and defensive side of the football. Yeah, they're 1-7, but that's not a 1-17. I mean, if you watch the tape, they're good in areas of, the football team, right? They got the pieces there to be good. So, they were one game away from the playoffs, one play away from the playoffs last year. Like, this was a team they were building for something bigger and greater. And unfortunately, it just hasn't happened this year. Chuck, I think he's a great guy. I think he has a great heart. I really do think he wants to do great for his community. He's shown that multiple times. But unfortunately, he needs to realize, like he said, come back in 2027, man. There's no 2027. You got to take a seat. You got to step back a little bit and really look at this and take a whole year off to really assess, because now this is the third time this has happened, right? First with the High Desert Storm, first, and then the Black Bears. I can't really count the Black Bears, so I give that like half. You know what I mean? And in this whole situation, 2.5 times. So how are you going to go back in the community where now you're going to come back again, the fourth time? Like, that's a little dicey. You know what I mean? So it's a hard situation to see. And then with Oceanside, I got guys up there too, so it's horrible to see, but we all knew Oceanside would have issues from day one. We've been saying this, the transparency there's just no transparency. And so the AF1 has such a long way to go, and they think they're a lot closer than they are. And until they can accept the reality of where they're at, they won't ever get to where they want to get to. That's just what it is. So
That's a fair point. From what I was told, Oceanside has made a move at head coach. Cree Morris is no longer with the organization, from what I was told, and this essentially was due to, if you're to believe what Fred Elliott posted, and that's no shot at Elliott, that's just assuming he took the time to confirm it. I have not independently confirmed what was said in his posts, just so we are all clear. I'm simply speaking on what he posted. So not saying it's truth or gospel or anything like that. I'm also not calling Fred Elliott out. But if you are to believe what was said in the text messages or the messages back and forth with Elliott, you can see that At one point, the original Oceanside owner kind of disappeared. He was gone, and somebody else came in. They kind of kept the team afloat, and then the old owner came back and somehow got some sort of, I guess, had a conversation with the new owner and ultimately decided that they wanted Creed Morris out because of a kind of behind the scenes power struggle. So crazy information to come out, because honestly, I thought Creed Morris was doing a great job given the way his roster was constructed and the constraints he was able to live and die under there in Oceanside. So I honestly thought that he needed to stay. But if he is truly gone, then that has to make you wonder, like, who's going to step up as the head coach? And when they do, who replaces that position that they held, or are they pulling dual roles? How does that affect the coaching staff in general? How does that affect the roster? So, I mean, it could be a very significant situation for Oceanside going down the stretch. And you also have to wonder about them even more because of losing Oregon, which I don't have the schedule pulled up right in front of me, so I'm not sure if they were even going to play for the rest of the season, but that's still a factor moving forward. Oregon disappearing affects Washington, affects Oceanside, both of those teams very substantially. This isn't a team in the middle of the country. This is a team in the very far Pacific Northwest. So that's something to consider here. So
can you imagine Oceanside? And I'll just put this out there. They had a little more resources. You know what I mean? Like they had maybe Michigan level where they could spend up a little bit on certain positions. That team would be a playoff team. They would be really good. Because primetime destination, it's Cal. There's so many talented players from that area. So
yeah, 100%. And honestly, I mean, despite the fact that they built 100% locally, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't know that I've ever seen it quite this extensive at the professional level. But they stumbled on some really, really good players, and Rudy Johnson's been playing out of his mind. Jovan Tucker, same thing, has been absolutely unstoppable lately. So I mean,
they were Minnesota, right? Rudy makes $250. Minnesota's quarterback makes $2,800. So, think about that. They were one play away from beating one of the highest paid payroll teams in the country. So it says a lot about their coaching, in my opinion.
250 or 400?
Is it 250? What is it now? I don't even remember.
I thought it was 400, but things might have changed.
Maybe, yeah.
In the AF1, it's 400 men.
400.
That's what I thought, but it might have changed. You've got to kind of work with the ownership groups that you have. So if anything changed there, that would not surprise me for the slightest. So obviously, I mean, we're talking about multiple teams here, but we've already talked about the fact that Beaumont, there were some concerns around them when they first came into the league. So now that's Oregon, Oceanside, Beaumont, and then the situation unfolding with Michigan not apparently paying their merchandiser. So, I mean, that's 4 or 5 teams. Then you also look at the fact that very recently when Minnesota went to go play Oceanside, they took a bus from Minnesota to California. I'll let you guys deduce what you may from that statement, but that is concerning. That's a 30-hour drive, according to Apple Maps. So that is something that all of us should kind of wonder, why did that happen? So there are some things out there that make me wonder about the rest of the league as well, which, let's be honest, like Krish said, we don't want to see the AF1 fail. We don't want that league to have these issues. We don't want any of these teams to go by the wayside. But unfortunately, it sounds like there is a pretty large mess behind the scenes right now in the AF1. And honestly, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it, like it will be a little bit we'll be lucky to see them completely finish the season. So the league in general, which is crazy to say at this point. But any other thoughts on this subject in general before we can move on to maybe a little bit more positive topics involving the league? All right. So any big transactions that caught your guys' eye over the, well, let me back up. Let's talk about Michigan versus Albany last night. So we kind of touched on that a little bit. Albany has lost for the first time in, correct me if I'm wrong with my math, but 716 days just under 2 full calendar years, Albany did not lose a single game, and they just lost to Michigan last night in actually pretty surprising fashion. It was 59-33 when the game was over, if I remember correctly. So impressive performance by Michigan. But Krish, what did you see? What happened that allowed this to happen by Michigan?
I mean, look, people talk about Tyler Coca, they talk about Sam Castanova as that elite team. They always forget conveniently to mention one guy, Malik Henry. Malik Henry is one of the top quarterbacks regardless of league in the country. And I've been saying this all along. His play speaks for himself. His numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you look at this year, he's thrown for over, 2,000 yards and 40 touchdowns in 9 games. And then people say, oh, he's thrown 9 interceptions. He's thrown 9 interceptions in the league leading 340 pass attempts. So think about that, 9 interceptions and 340 pass attempts. Like, he's protecting the football at a high level. Every team, Vegas, Arizona, every team next year should try to sign Malik Henry, because he'll come in and make your football team better. And so I just think he's amazing. He's elite. And he proved that last night, the way they did him in Albany when he was there 2 years ago. I feel like they did him wrong, and I said this all along. Like, if they played him, when they played Billings in the championship, they would have won. They would have won that year. They would have won the championship. They would have beat the Outlaws if he started over Medlock. But, that's my opinion. And so he showed that he got his revenge against Coach Ware. And, it's a huge loss for Albany, but they'll be fine. But this is a huge win for Michigan. It's a culture building win. And I just think Michigan is, they're on the up and up, man. They got three more games left. They can win all 3 and make those playoffs. And when the playoffs happen, I mean, anything's possible. So I just feel, Malik last night proved that he's the front runner to win the MVP this year. So.
Wow. Bold statement for sure. But TJ, what are your thoughts on this scenario?
I was actually really excited about the game last night, just because the last time these two teams faced, it was really close. Michigan really held their own. So I didn't expect Michigan to run away with it. That was really surprising. But, hey, man, Albany, I mean, obviously, first loss in, I believe they said 21 games now. The 21st game was last night, so they went 20-0. They had a heck of a run. Definitely not going to fall apart, I don't think. But they're definitely not as, I'll just say, purely dominant as they seem to be last year. They are still the best team in the league, in my opinion. Though they're going to be a tough out, especially now that they've experienced a loss for the first time in basically 2 years. They're probably going to come out and destroy whoever they have next on their schedule. Just being honest, that's going to be their mindset. But you got to give props to Michigan, man. Not having the best season record wise, but that team shows up every week. They've played, a couple of the top teams in this league down to the wire, and they were finally able to finish off the deal last night. So it was impressive. It was a fun game. To a fun standalone game in the AF1 to watch. That's for sure.
No, and a lot of people, a lot of ownership groups in the league, and I'm going to respond to this comment too. A lot of ownership groups in the league felt like, Albany ran the league. And I feel like this gives Nashville no excuse next week not to be Albany. You can be Albany if you come, with a good plan. You just have to execute at a high level. And Michigan, they executed on all 3 phases of the game. I don't agree with this. You can't win MVP. If they go finish 500, 100% they can't. You know what I mean? I feel like, look at his offensive line he has. His offensive line and the defense is nowhere near what Nashville's is, right? So you put him in Nashville, he'll do the same thing, if not even better. So that's my thing. It's like he's playing with less resources than Tyler Coca has. They don't pay their linemen $1,000 a game like they do in Nashville, in Michigan. That's just reality. Let's just be honest, right? So
I'm proud of you, Krish. Typically, you don't consider context, and that's a whole lot of context around that take there for Malik.
Well, honestly, I really feel like his numbers speak for themselves, and but obviously Tyler's a great player too, so it'll be close. But and then Castanova, but he's in, 3 games in. You can't if he doesn't put up all-star numbers like he's been putting up all-star numbers, but he doesn't have more touchdowns than those guys coming in 3 games in. Like, you can't give him MVP. Come on, man. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, I completely agree on the Castronova fact. I mean, with him only playing a portion of the games, how would that look as a league if he still won MVP? Now, if his performance is that much better in a short amount of time than everybody else, sure, hand him the award. But I definitely see your point that probably needs to go to somebody else in the league, whether it's Malik Henry or Rudy Johnson or, Tyler Kolko or whoever it may be, right? So I think you have a good point there.
I'm just excited to see Coach Ware. I was hoping Coach Ware would be watching this morning, but I cannot wait to see that show. Like I can't wait. He talks all about the program, the culture, and not like they have a great culture there, but now you're facing adversity. So how's that show going to be? Are they even going to do a show? Like I'm excited. I can't wait for Wednesday night, man. Can't wait.
I fairly certain they'll still do a show. And I also don't think that if you're Albany, I don't even think this is really a blip on your radar. Are you a little concerned you lost a game? Do you need to make some adjustments? Sure, absolutely. But I mean, I said it last night. I was slightly wrong, and somebody corrected me. Arena Football Coverage corrected me, but I thought it was 2 games in 3 seasons, but it's actually 3 games. So Albany's lost 3 games in 3 seasons. This isn't even remotely a concern for me if I'm an Albany, player. If I'm a player fan, like what would I be concerned about? Oh, okay, my team lost a game for the first time in 2 years. It's crazy to me. It seems like there's a lot of reaction about what's going on in Albany. It's like, man, honestly, the fact that they haven't lost a game this long should be the subject that we're talking about, not the fact that they finally lost. Like, everybody has a bad game at some point. They've been able to overcome those. So
I saw the post game he did. I watched it. It was the 6-minute and 43-second one. It was good. I mean, he touched on a lot of things, and he said that big change is coming, and obviously, like that's good to hear, right? Like he wants to continue to win and continue to put him at a high level. So, but this is good. This is a big day, great night for the league that Albany lost. It's good.
Right. Triple McGee says when Backfoot Henry gets pressured, he makes horrible decisions. And but
I mean, that's offensive line. Like that's what I'm saying.
I was gonna say. And on top of that, what quarterback doesn't make terrible decisions when they're pressured, when they've got defensive lineman right in their face? There's not a lot of them that really are super talented and successful when they're pressured as often as Malik has been this year. But and that is a whole nother topic to discuss. He wasn't pressured much of any last night. Albany failed to get home on a pretty under-talented offensive line, if are being 100% honest here. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how Albany bounces back for this moving forward. But on that note, any transactional information from the league this week that caught your eye, Krish?
I mean, the big one for me would be Trayvon Jones from Vegas, headed to Minnesota. Right, Minnesota Nighthawks. They continue their nice little train they got over there. Then let's see. I would say about Hunter Schwoba signing with Kentucky. Savante Davenport going to Kentucky. So, those are the big ones for me. And then Myron Williams from Ohio State. He was starting fullback there for a year. In 2023, he signed with Albany. He played last night.
Robert Fuentes to injured reserve as well for Minnesota. Kind of a big blow there. He's been he's a solid player all the way around. So definitely can.
Thomas Thompson, but he's been housed in Minnesota the past 3 weeks, so they just signed it back. Nashville, Tyrese Chambers released. I wonder if he signs with the IFL team back half of the season. I definitely think he signs with the IFL team.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Tyrese Chambers from Bay Area last year. He definitely will IFL.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, I think this seems like a pretty good time to transition on to the next league, which honestly I'm kind of open to whatever you guys want to discuss next. But Krish, do you mind hitting the the commercial break for the Columbus Lions and the Wheeling Miners.
Step up in the pocket, has some room in front of him, gets that three-step drop, here comes the pressure, passes complete to Flowers, back to pass, pressure coming, has somebody in the end zone, touchdown! Pressure's coming, Russell able to escape, still on his feet, and will be brought down at the looking, has plenty of time, has Flores at the 15, he's at the 10, and Russell has it on the outside, like I said, he ain't taking a slide, Russell steps up, lets one go, Robinson makes the circus catch, going to be a low snap, here comes the pressure, and the pass is going to be complete, and making the catch of Grant Russell. Russell, back to pass, looking, he has Robinson makes the catch, and will be brought down on the play by Isaiah Hall. Coleman and Robinson.
The mountains you climb, maybe stairs. The records you set, maybe personal. The fans you inspire, maybe family. No lights, no camera, just action. You don't have to be a pro. You just need HoneyStinger.
How many times a week?
Like three or four times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
That's probably what they're saying about Green Bay after last night's win. Blizzard just continued to roll through the IFL this season. And with that being said, I have a very simple question to pose you guys. Can we crown the Blizzard already? Are they currently the best team in the league? No? All right. Well, let's kind of unpack that. I personally think that they would give Vegas a run for their money, but I know you guys are both we're all three very big Vegas supporters here. But with that being said, what do you guys think about Green Bay after last night's win?
I think Green Bay is a really fundamentally sound football team, right? And I think, we played them earlier in the year. It was a 3-point game. But, man, we scored every time except once, and they scored every time. And they were dominant. They won on special teams. They dominate in the trenches. They're a really good team. Their offensive line is great. I think they have an amazing offensive line. I think Liam Thompson is playing at an all-star level, honestly. His numbers speak for themselves. I believe he has 55 touchdowns on the year total. So, that says a lot. But I just think people lose sight, and I was telling someone this week too. People lose sight of what the regular season means. Right? Regular season is so important. I'm not discounting that at all. Of course, obviously I want my team to win the remaining games. But can you sustain that in the playoffs? I look at Bay Area last 2 years. They dominated the league in the regular season. Dominated. Like, they were beating teams by consistently 2 to 3 scores every game. Right? They beat Vegas at home by 17 points. But they lost to Vegas in the playoffs when it mattered. And so can Green Bay sustain that? And whoever is going to get the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference is going to be a tough team going into Green Bay or going into, obviously it looks like Green Bay will get a home playoff game. So, I think I think Green Bay will be. My hope is we play Green Bay in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's my hope. But I think we have a long way to go. They have a long way to go. It's a long season, but they're a dang good team. But right now, the number one team in the league to me is still Vegas. It's still Vegas, unfortunately. But
Unfortunately, I was waiting for that. TJ, you're smiling. I'm sure you're going to agree with Krish's assessment that they are still the best team in the Vegas is still the best team in the league.
Yes, absolutely. I was laughing at the little sneak in for Orlando, but uh, no, man. Vegas, in my opinion, I mean, they're on the best streak too as well. I mean, they lost the opening game of the season in a weather delayed, no attendance in terms of fans game against Green Bay. So, not to make excuses, but a little modified. But since then, man, Vegas has been on a roll. They've won the IFL Cup. They beat Arizona. They're just on a roll. Last night's game, in my opinion, yeah, it showed that Green Bay is a great team. And I'll be honest, when I was at the IFL Cup, there was a lot of chirping about the championship game, and everyone kept saying it's probably going to be a rematch because they're just the two. They seem to be the two best teams in the league. But last night to me was more about Jacksonville. It's like I said at the beginning of the season. During the regular season, they're great. They win a lot of games, everything else. But against other playoff teams, they're kind of 50-50. Once they get to the postseason, they seem to have some issues. So is Green Bay a great team? Absolutely. But are they the best? Absolutely not. I think Vegas is still number one. And I think, honestly, Green Bay, I think you put Green Bay and Arizona together. I'm not sure who comes out of that game, to be honest with you. So I think they're kind of evenly matched in terms of the next two. I would put them in that category. But in my opinion, Vegas is still the best team in the league, and they're the defending champs, so rightfully so.
Fair point. Fair point. I think really what we need to take away from this season so far in the IFL is that the top half of the league is very, very strong, very deep right now. Like you pointed out, whether it's Arizona, Vegas, Green Bay, I mean, you could even throw a couple other teams in that mix right now. I mean, they're probably a little bit further out than either any of those three, but the top like elite teams in the IFL right now are extremely hard to beat. So it's going to be a lot of fun down the stretch to see, how this all unfolds. But one big reason why I am so behind the Blizzard right now is because it seems like they've uncovered a star in Robinson there at running back. That dude has been on fire as of late, whether it's in the passing game as a receiver or in the running game as the running back, the main running threat for Green Bay. Liam Thompson's been playing really well, as Krish said as well. And yeah, maybe the defense needs some work, but at the end of the day, if you can score points and you can run the ball, I think you have a pretty good chance of being a championship team in the IFL. But projections are great. We got to play the game. So there's a long way to go for Green Bay.
And I'll be the first one to admit, man, I was wrong about that Jacksonville team. I mean, Coach Gibson had them playing at a high level, man. I thought they were going to win 4.5 games. Really, I'll say that. People think I'm scared to admit it. No, I'm not. I mean, I said it, but I'm excited to play them next week. I'm really excited because I think that we can get them good next week. But it's still a long season. It's last week showed us. Vegas gave up 70 points to Northern Arizona. 70, right? And I saw Mike Davis on the sideline, and he looked like he was in a midlife crisis. But honestly, right? But at the end of the day, that shows you that if you don't come ready to play, I look at 2 weeks ago, New Mexico had a 21-0 lead on San Diego in the second quarter, and they had the ball. They had the opportunity to go up 28-0 and a 4-possession lead, right? So it's all about showing up, and it's who's like I said before, who can sustain for the long race. Who can win that long race? And I still haven't seen a team in the East who I can say, okay, this is the team that will do it.
Fair. To me, Green Bay is that team, but that's they have some stuff to prove as well. We're speaking about playoff success and getting deep and stuff like that as far as that goes. So Green Bay's, they've had some tough losses in the playoffs as of late as well. So that's definitely something to follow along with. But I liked what you pointed out there about the Northern Arizona and Vegas game, and I'm glad that you brought it up because it was something that I wanted to talk about. Just given the spread last week, like me and TJ talked about it at length. Negative, it was what, 26.5 points, I think it was.
Yeah. And I said, bet it, everybody, bet it.
You did.
My bad.
I mean, to be fair, like, I think everybody going into that game thought Vegas was going to blow out Northern Arizona, but to Coach Davis's credit, he came away from that game. He said, you know what, we got a wake up call tonight. You know, you can't take anybody lightly. It doesn't matter what game it is, what week it is, and sometimes championship teams need to be reminded that they are not immortal. You know, they can lose a game. They can get beat by an opponent that maybe shouldn't compete with them, and we saw that. You know, in this game, I mean, Northern Arizona very nearly escaped with a win in that one. And shout out to their kicker out there who had an unbelievable game. I think he hit like 3 or 4 deuces. Like, I don't believe he missed an extra point, and I had a couple field goals as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, just an outstanding performance by Manny. But that's kind of what he does, you know. He's kind of a meme because he manages to be so talented and find so much success left, right, and center. But
I mean, let's talk about the young one real quick from Northern Arizona, Anthony Garrett. I mean, he looks like the second coming of Donovan McNabb, man. I mean, honestly, like I know that's a crazy comparison, but I mean, you talk about 22 touchdowns in 5 games. I mean, this is someone he's come to play. You know, he's coming to play at a high level, and I think he's next up. He's the next superstar quarterback in the league. And he's still young. He's only 23. So his opportunity to move up to a higher level, like, he's a prime candidate to be able to do it.
There's a reason he was on Vegas's roster at some point, right? You know,
They should have never cut him because I feel like maybe he was the future of the program. But who knows? But honestly, though, now I thought about this for a while. Like, it's a good thing almost they cut him because now he's playing time. You know, so that was honestly a good, nice move from coach to allow him to play,
100%. I mean, honestly, that's a big deal for sure. You know, you go out of your way to let that guy, get to go play a game. And I mean, let's talk about that performance he just had against Vegas. 16 of 27, 171 yards, 6 touchdowns thrown. Just an unbelievable game by him. And to me, he didn't look like a rookie. He was slinging it. It looked very confident, looked very, very on the same page as his receivers and all of that. And it just didn't seem like he was new to the team. Also ran for 2 touchdowns and 91 yards on the ground. Like, he's a future star, or he is a star right now. Let's put it that way. We're kind of watching him have his coming out party so far. So, good on you for throwing that out there as well, because he deserves credit for what he's been able to do so far down there for Naz. Any transactions this week that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, this is a big one. I mentioned it in the chat yesterday, and I'll pull it up right now. San Antonio, they moved on from Fred Payton. So they released Fred Payton, and they went out and they signed Zach Calzada from Incarnate Word. He was started down there, Kentucky, Auburn, Texas A&M. I mean, this is someone, he's a well-traveled vet, college football. He's 24, a little older coming out of college in the NIL era. But, man, I just think that's such a good move for them. He's a dual-threat quarterback. You can run the ball, you can throw it, and that he's what they're looking for. Now, Jonathan Bain's offense requires you to throw the ball 31 times per game. So will he be able to sustain throwing the ball 31 times per game? I'm not sure, but I think he's a little bit of an upgrade from Fred Payton, slightly upgrade, and I hope he goes and balls out for San Antonio. He went to school in the Incarnate Word, and he played with one of the new linemen they signed, Trayvon Newsome. Trayvon Newsome was a starting left tackle for Incarnate Word this year. He won a national championship there 2 years ago. So his quarterback was Zach Calzada. So it's interesting. It's cool to see those two kind of reunite with San Antonio. But
it's kind of crazy how that stuff always kind of works. It seems like there's always a former college teammate somewhere that kind of draws a player in for the first time.
And I have other transactions to report. New Mexico, they acquired Von Rucker. They did that last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Been traded. And then, so San Antonio, they signed that DB from Jacksonville cut. We cut our lineman from Oregon we signed last week. He played in 4 plays and he had a false start. So, he had to go. But unfortunately, we didn't even make a change there. But
he gave him 4 plays. Of course he had a false start. Come on, man. He's like, I don't even know what my quarterback sounds like. Was that the fan saying that, or was that a defensive lineman? Or
TJ Davis, he's coming back from CFL. He signed with Tulsa, so he's back in the league.
I totally missed that he got released.
Yeah. They activated one of the better D linemen, IR, and then Jamal Bell from Baylor. He got released from New Mexico. Wes Bowers is a free agent, and Wes Bowers is a free agent. He got cut from New Mexico. That is a huge free agent right now, this late in the cycle in the IFL. Wes Bowers could make a lot of teams better. A lot of teams. I wouldn't even mind Wes Bowers in Orlando, to be honest. Wes he's like that. He's a really good player. And those are kind of the big ones. Yeah, I would say.
TJ, any thoughts on any of those moves?
Nah. I didn't really get a chance to look this week.
Fair point. On that note, Krish, can you pull up the picks? Or actually, do you want to do picks at the end of the show like we did last time?
We can do it now. I'll just pull it up. If you don't mind.
Because we did not do AF1 picks, so we'll have to loop back around on
around that. But no, I mean, I don't know. Let's talk about, while I pull it up, let's talk about that move for San Antonio. Moving on from Fred Payton. Do we think Fred Payton signed somewhere, or what do you think happens with him?
That's an interesting move mid-season because, I feel like there's a couple teams that could potentially improve at the quarterback position, bringing Payton in, and that's regardless of league because we know he's played in virtually every league at this point, the NAL, the AF1, and the IFL, so he can kind of fit in with multiple teams and multiple schemes, in my opinion, so I think that he's an interesting player to come available at this point. I think there's probably a handful of teams, 2, 3, 4 teams in the IFL that could probably use him. Let me back that up. Maybe only 2 now that Naz and New Mexico maybe have a situation figured out there at quarterback. But you still have a couple teams in the AF1 that are going to need to make a move at quarterback. The NAL at any moment could have a team that needs somebody for, whether it's injury or, somebody just doesn't play well and they decide to cut him right before the championship game or something like that. So I could definitely see Peyton landing somewhere before the end of the season for sure. I don't think this is the last we've heard of him in 2026.
So I'll go through and I'll make my picks here real quick and then I'll let you guys kind of debate on them. But so San Antonio travels, New Mexico travels to San Antonio. That game is at 5:00 Eastern time. It's a big one, right? It's a big one for San Antonio. Obviously, you had 2 bad losses. The Green Bay and Jacksonville, you got killed on the road 2 times. So this is time for you to go home and reset and contend for that 4th playoff seed. You got a new quarterback coming in. He gets a lighter New Mexico defense because obviously Wes Bowers is not playing now. So that defense was horrible with Wes Bowers. So now without him, they're going to be even worse. Right, so he should have a lot of time in the pocket to move around and kind of get used to the indoor style of play. I'm excited to see how Von Rucker does if he starts for for New Mexico. So I like San Antonio minus 7.5 in this contest. I feel good about that. Minus 7.5. my Orlando Pirates, man, traveling to Tulsa. This is a big game for us. We need this one. You know what I mean? A lot of people out there say we can't beat good teams, but I feel like tonight we can show that we can beat good teams and we're a talented team. So obviously our guy Leon O'Neal won Defensive Player of the Week last week, and I just hope he continues to build out that momentum going into Tulsa. We got Nyquan Murray back finally. He's been hurt the last 2 games, so to get him back is huge at this point during the playoff push. And we win this game, we really get, I believe we go up 2.5 to 3 games on Tulsa for that 4th playoff spot. So let's go in and let's get this win right now. So I like us plus 8.5, and I like the over 90.5. Quad City, Iowa. Give me Quad City minus 11.5. Quad City in the bounce back spot. You know, obviously they lost to Iowa early on in the season. I feel like they're going to want to get back. Quad City been playing good football lately. They beat Green Bay. Obviously, I think they'll beat Iowa pretty easily. So minus 11.5 there. Tucson and Vegas. 24 is large, man. 24 is a large spread. I don't know, man. It's hard because I think Vegas can cover, but I'm going to take Tucson plus 24.5 in this one. And I'm going to take the over 88. I think Jerome is going to want to get in the end zone against Vegas a couple times. So San Diego, Northern Arizona. This is my bet of the week. Or no, my Orlando. Obviously, Orlando is my bet of the week. But this is my bet. Over 89.5. You got to hammer that. Put your life savings on over 89.5, man. Everything you got. This is going to be a shootout. Give me San Diego, Northern Arizona over 89.5. And then Fishers, Arizona, under 91, and Arizona minus 7.5. So those are my picks. I feel like it's going to be a really good week. There's a lot of good games. So this will be good.
Do you mind scrolling back up to the top?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be honest. I literally did my picks as Krish was just talking just now. So if some of my picks are exactly the same as his, you know why now. But with that being said, let's back up here. So New Mexico at San Antonio. I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and say New Mexico is going to take this one. I know that is probably to a lot of people a shocking statement, but I'm very curious to see the quarterback situation with New Mexico there. Bringing in Rucker last week and not starting him and then ultimately deciding to start him this week makes sense to me. It also means, in my mind, like you don't have anything to lose as New Mexico. So why not give him the chance to go out there and see what he can do and see if you found your guy. So on that, I've got New Mexico winning this game. I don't expect it to be a blowout by any stretch. I imagine it's going to be a situation where, you know, one team or the other makes a mistake, and ultimately that's what leads to a victory. For some odd reason, we're having issues on Facebook with StreamYard right at the moment. So anybody who is watching on Facebook, jump over to YouTube, or if you guys could do us a favor and help us spread that word over on Facebook for the moment. Right now, I'm having some computer issues on top of everything, so I can't really do both while trying to host the show. But with that being said, moving on to the Orlando at Tulsa game, I'm personally going to pick Tulsa in this game because they're at home, but I don't feel super confident about that pick. I think Orlando could definitely roll in there, get a win. In the next game, this is an interesting one because, as Krish pointed out, Iowa beat Quad City earlier in the season. However, Iowa since has looked terrible. They're at home, so there is that. But I'm still going to pick Quad City. I am going, I did, however, bet on Iowa to cover the 11.5 point spread. So I might regret that bet, but we'll see. Moving on to the Tucson and Vegas game, I've got Vegas. I'm not going to spend any time breaking that one down because it's pretty clear they're the better team. They just lost a game. As TJ said, you know, they're going to come out wanting to punch somebody in the mouth. They're pissed they just lost a game.
They lost?
They
sorry,
didn't lose,
they
but it
didn't
was
lose, but
close. 1 point, yeah.
they let Naz hang around. Sorry, it was.
I was about to say Coach Davis was about to get on here. They lost.
Let me back up. I'm sorry, they didn't lose. Sorry. They didn't lose, but they were very close to losing against Naz, who we all thought was an inferior opponent, by the way. But with that being said, I think Vegas goes into this game with the same mindset that they had against Naz. This is an opponent that we should walk all over. We should come out of this game with an easy win, and we need to prove that we are the team that we know we are after what happened last week. Sorry, wasn't a loss. Again, wasn't a loss, but they should have blown Naz out. DraftKings thought so. TJ thought so. I thought so. We all thought so. And ultimately, they won by 1 point. So
I just think, man, the one thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, but one thing I feel like is Vegas set themselves up so good by dominating the regular season and beating all the top teams that now they're just kind of playing for fun. Like, I'm not saying obviously he wants the number 1 seed. I get that. But, like, is he going to lose sleep if he gets the number 2 seed? Worst case scenario? No. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's fine. So they're going to come. Tucson is going to play this like it's their championship game. But Vegas can kind of just, play for fun. And I feel like they have more talent. So.
Right, but I don't think there's a chance in hell that Mike Davis lets his team overlook another opponent.
Oh, no. Oh, he's probably made, guarantee you, he made practice hell this week. But, like old school practice, got the guys doing, 100
Oklahoma
stairs,
drills.
running around the stairs, all that. But, but it's all part of it. I feel like sometimes people overlook, like, they're 9-1. You know what I mean? Like, just 9-1. So.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And they have the point differential, too, over Tucson. So even if Tucson wins, Tucson has to win by 21 points to cover that, because they lost by 20 early on in the season. So they're not winning by 21. So it's like,
good point. Moving on to the next game, I've got San Diego at Northern Arizona. I'm picking another shocker. I'm going with Northern Arizona this one. After their performance against Vegas last week, I think they're hopefully trending the right direction. Or greasing the right palms. With that being said, Northern Arizona is going to take this one at home, and they're going to be the upset of the week over San Diego, which I think is a pretty solid favorite there for most people heading into Northern Arizona. The final game of the weekend, this one to me is probably one of the most clear-cut games of the weekend. You're in Arizona. Arizona's winning that one. I don't have any doubt in my mind that they will be the victor. So I'm taking Arizona in that one. It wouldn't even shock me to see them cover that 7.5 point spread as well. TJ, my friend, I took like way longer than I anticipated. What do you have betted this week so far?
Well, I'm kind of on your surprise pick for the 5 o'clock game. I'm also picking New Mexico over San Antonio. I am going to take the point spread though. I think that 7.5. I think that 0.5, man, that might be the difference. I think it's going to be a back and forth game, so I'm going with that. Quad City over Iowa. Not taking the point spread, but I am taking Quad City straight up in that one. Maybe a surprise this weekend. Orlando at Tulsa. I am taking Orlando with the points because I think it's going to be a close game. And even if Orlando doesn't win straight up, I think the 8.5, they're definitely going to cover that. So I'm going to go with that. Vegas, I'm going out on a limb. I'm taking the spread again because if it didn't happen last week, Mike Davis is definitely going to make sure the team does it this week. That's for sure. So I'm going to pick Vegas. I would pick the over too. I think they're going to try and score 100 tonight just to prove a point. San Diego at Northern Arizona. I'm picking the strike force, not the point spread. I'm just picking them straight up. But I think I think Northern Arizona, I think they kind of blew everything last week trying to beat Vegas. I think they're going to come out. They're still going to compete. It's still going to be a good game, but I don't think they're going to look as sharp as they did last week. And then Arizona at Fishers. I was really thinking about picking Fishers with the points, but every time I pick Fishers, they go out and they lose by 30. So I just picked Arizona because, Fishers, you keep breaking my heart. So, and as usual, if you pick all 6 of those picks from my recommendation, not telling you to, recommendation, in theory, $10 would win 123. So just saying.
Some pretty good odds there for sure.
Out that Vegas does have a new backup quarterback. They signed him last week, but he didn't get to play at all. His name is Quincy Citrin. I'm butchering his last name, but he played at Sanford. He just finished. He's draft eligible from this past year, so he's a new quarterback they got coming in. And he obviously Sanford was 1-10 last year, so we really didn't get to see him. But I mean, he threw. I was looking at his stats, man. He had one game where he threw the ball 51 times, and he completed 41 passes. So if he's throwing the ball 51 times on a team that's 1-10 with the bottom of offensive line, how is he going to do in a system with number 1 offensive line in the league? So that's a good low-key signing by coach to try to put someone like a low. It's a high ceiling type guy. So it's a good move.
Definitely sounds like a Vegas Nighthawk type addition. Somebody who will most likely find their way outdoors in the very near future. But on that note, I feel like this is probably a perfectly good time to take a commercial break, transition over to our next league, the National Arena League, which I actually will be in person in Kansas later on today.
God bless you, man. God bless you.
For the next game. So I'm actually getting ready to leave in about an hour here. So just so you guys know, I probably will not be here for the very end of the show. We will hit the road right around 8 a.m. my time and be driving straight out there to Dodge City. Bringing a carload. Both my kids are coming with me. My brother's coming with me. I'm meeting Cody out there. Cody's dad's coming. And then also Megan Noriega, who is a friend of Cody and a very good photographer, will be also in attendance. So I got a whole entendre of people dropping in down there in Dodge City for the game. Hopefully going to meet Ricky Burtz in person. Going to see CJ again.
And you guys are doing all that to see the beef win? That's awesome.
No comment.
Oh, you heard it.
No comment. I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one. This is one of the few games where regardless of who wins, I think, I'm going to be rooting for that team who won in the championship game, which is, again, going to be tough because if Pueblo's there, that's obviously a very personal game for me as well.
Make sure you wear bright colors because he doesn't recognize people when he sees them in person.
What?
Nah, man, it's gonna be good. I'm glad that you get to go out there. It's gonna be. If you don't win, I'm telling you, it's gonna be the worst drive of your life coming back home. So you better hope you win.
It will be a rough drive for sure. It's definitely 5 hours regardless. So we'll be doing around 11 hours of driving in the next 2 days. But it'll be a good time nonetheless. But on that note, we're going to hit a commercial break. We'll be right back to discuss the NAL playoffs, which should be a great time.
What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Hi, my name is Sam Shady, and I'm a content creator for Shady Sports Network. I'm here to tell you about our newest sponsor, Goat Fuel. Anyone who has spent any time watching our content knows I drink energy drinks like crazy. So naturally, I've been searching for a healthy alternative that can give me the taste I crave without the negative side effects, which is why I'm here to talk about Goat Fuel, our newest partner. Goat Fuel is an energy drink designed for athletes by athletes. Co-founded by Hall of Fame wide receiver Jerry Rice, partnering with Goat Fuel was a natural fit for us at Shady Sports. With all natural ingredients, you can get the boost you need without the extras you don't. More importantly, it tastes great. With that in mind, check out the links in the description below and click on our affiliate link for Goat Fuel. Making your purchase helps support Shady Sports Network and in turn helps us continue providing great content on a weekly basis. Thank you for your support, and once again, shout out to our sponsor, Goat Fuel.
Hi, everyone. This is TJ from Shady Sports Network. I am excited and proud to be the first one to announce that we as a network are introducing a digital magazine, official one called Shady Sports Magazine. As many of you know, the bread and butter of our network is covering arena and indoor football, and that's exactly what this magazine is going to be about. It is going to be the first ever arena and indoor football central magazine, all the leagues included. You're going to also have a bunch of articles in there about past teams going down memory lane. It's just going to be a one-stop shop for the already diehard fan. It's going to be an easy spot to get all of your info, no matter which league or however many of the leagues you may watch. And for the new fan or the casual fan, it may help you turn into a diehard fan now, because you're going to be able to get all the info super quick and easy, sent directly into your email. We will announce in the upcoming weeks when the inaugural issue is going to be released. And believe me, we will definitely keep you updated on our shows and network as a whole on how to sign up for that list to get it. Email for free every month. Thank you to the fans, and thank you for everyone watching. As always, like, follow, share, subscribe, and most important, enjoy the show and keep watching. Thank you, and see you guys later.
Awesome. There we go. Sorry about that. So as you can tell, I'm trying to use two devices at once to make everything work here. So I apologize, Krish, if you could do me a solid and remove that from the screen. That would be great, because my mouse is still not working for whatever reason. So if you see me twice, I apologize. We'll get that cleared up right there. There you go. So without further ado,
I just want to start off this NAL segment by talking about how Southwest Kansas is playing the system. Man, they saw, they put Evan DiMaggio on short term, 14-day IR, and they signed Vincent DeLeo back, which I was shocked to see.
Playing the system how?
Well, now he's on 14-day IR, so he can come back to the championship, right? No?
Yeah, but he got hurt.
Is he really hurt? Really?
Yeah. 100%. Trust me when I say
I want to see the MRI to prove that he's hurt, because I think this is crazy.
Look, I mean, I could tell you with great certainty a move does not happen at linebacker for the Southwest Kansas Storm unless it was absolutely 100% necessary. And I think anybody who has watched the film this year would agree with me. Krish, I know you have, so I'm not saying you haven't. But DiMaggio has played like a defensive player of the year candidate all year. I don't think that there's any scenario where you let that guy go or you make a move unless you absolutely have to. Now, obviously, as you pointed out, being placed on 14-day IR, technically, I think, depending on the placement, like what time he was placed on there, he might still be eligible for the championship game. But it would all depend on the timing of when he was placed on there. So, I mean, if it was placed on there in the middle of the week, then he's probably not available for the championship game. So that's a whole nother thing as well. As far as bringing back Vince DeLeo, I think they were very fortunate that he was available, right? He was just released by Kentucky a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Who it is?
Albany. Wow.
We got some breaking information here. So players are not eligible to return once placed on IR during the playoffs. So that's important information to know, because
there you
go. I believe Duke Williams from Salina, the receiver, he led the CFL touchdowns from Auburn University. He was placed on IR during the playoff week. So I don't know if that was considered the end of the regular season. So, if they do make the championship, I wonder if he'll be allowed to return or not. So
interesting. That could be a huge blow to Salina. So that's something to watch there for them for sure. But I mean, let's get into these games. I mean, obviously you had two really, really great matchups this weekend. We mentioned the Southwest Kansas Storm will be taking on the Omaha Beef in Dodge City tonight, which should be a great game. Quite frankly, I mean, I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of insight on a private conversation I had with our guy, Michael Washington, who said, very clearly in no uncertain terms that he believes the Omaha Beef are the hottest team in football right now based on how they've been playing. And with that being said, the Southwest Kansas Storm do not have an easy game on their hand tonight. This is not going to be an opponent you can roll over just because they're the 6th seed. Regardless of what anybody may say about their 0-5 start, it's not the same team at this point. Things have changed dramatically. So I think it would be a mistake by any team to take them lightly. If the Beef are in the if the Beef are in the playoffs, they need to be considered a championship contender. It does not matter any of the circumstances. And let's be honest, I've been down in this drum all season long. I knew somehow, some way, the Beef are going to find their way into the playoffs, and here we are. So I am definitely not counting them out tonight. And I am not, like Krish said, it would be a very long drive if I drove all the way to Kansas just to watch the Storm, who have kind of been my team.
This game will come down to one thing. It's going to come down to Southwest Kansas DBs versus Omaha receivers. Southwest has a nice DB band. Shaquez Mon, in my opinion, is a superstar. Watching him on film, like he makes the plays when they need to be made. And, obviously Jalen Knox, right? They got guys in Southwest. That DB room is nice. So can they match up against the receivers? And I think they can. I think they match up well. Obviously on the offensive side of the football, Southwest needs to establish a run game early. I mean, Sioux City pulling up with Brandon Shepard with that running back they tried to do last week was so just dumb, disrespectful in so many ways. They should have had an active running back ready to go in the playoffs. And so, Sioux City, I'm going to go on a whole Sioux City rant at another episode because that program is in dark times for sure. That program is at the bottom of the pit right now. The fact they couldn't beat Omaha in the playoffs this year and just the way they finished the season. But I really think Southwest needs to be able to establish a run. They need to be able to. And they need to get Jelani Baker involved. They need to figure out ways to get other playmakers. Because I think Omaha's going to come out and double D-wash tonight. I think they'll double D-wash the whole night. So you got to.
Why wouldn't you, right?
Right. Like, especially after last game. Remember, he had 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. So yeah. They'll double him this game for sure.
Yeah, no, and we'll get to this in a minute because I want to ask you your guys' opinions on who will win the awards for the year. But, D-Wash he's unbelievable. Watching him play in his, mid to late 30s, like he's 20-some years old and burning defenders that are 10 years younger than him, it's unbelievable. But with that being said, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this Storm offense lives and dies by the run game. And if they do not get Sutton going somehow, some way in this game, I think they will be very concerned, right? Because at the end of the day, Trey Self is not the runner that Matt Struck was. Regardless of how you look at it, he's not the same athlete. So you're not going to do the exact same things that you would do with Struck that you would do with Self. So with that in mind, I think Sutton's value in this game and the championship game, assuming they win tonight, is immeasurable, to be quite frank. So I think they need to get him going. He needs to have a big game, and they need to continue to run the ball and get creative in the run game in order to find ways, like Krish said, to scheme open D-Wash and these other offensive playmakers in the secondary. I mean, in the receiver group, because of the way this offense has been constructed this season. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this game tonight because I think it's going to be a back and forth affair. And I think honestly, I really, the 6 teams that made the playoffs were going to make a great combination of games regardless of how it unfolded. But I think this may have been the best combination of games to make it the most exciting and most competitive that we could have asked for. Pueblo versus Salina, great game. going to be very close. Should be a knockdown, drag-out affair. And then same thing with Southwest Kansas and the Beef. But
so I'm, because I got to go here soon. So I'm going to give my MVP, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year real quick.
Hold on. Let TJ do his pick.
You want to do the picks first?
Well, I mean, let TJ break down the game.
Break down. And then I'll do it.
Man, listen, the Beef are going to win tonight. I'm calling it. No. Listen, it's going to be a tough game, man. And honestly, whoever wins, man, I'm kind of on Sam's train of thought. I think whoever wins that game tonight is probably going to be the champ. No disrespect to Salina or Pueblo, but it's just tonight's game, man. This just feels like the championship before the championship, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, as a Beef fan, man, no matter what happens tonight, man, this season's been so much fun. It's so many times we talk about sports and life kind of intermingling. And man, what a lesson the Beef season has been, man. 0-5, left for dead, in the ashes, and here they are in the semifinal game. So many people doubted them out, everything else. I mean, they've literally been playing playoff football the last month and a half, 2 months of the season now. And it's just been a great ride, man. If you are a first year arena indoor fan and you're watching the Beef this season, you're definitely coming back next year, man. This has been a wild ride. But it's going to be a tough game tonight against against Southwest Kansas. They've been the best team all year long. They only lost one game in the finale. Hey, quarterback injury, no problem. We're just going to keep rolling. Defense, been playing strong. Secondary's physical. Definitely going to give, guys like, Dudley and, even Ross out of the backfield for Omaha a little bit of run for their money. But yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. Obviously, I'm picking the Beef, but I would not be surprised if it literally goes down to potentially the final play of the game. It's going to be a good one.
I'm so excited for this game tonight. It's going to be such a good one. And honestly, it was a very, very tough choice. The other games in Pueblo, drive 5 hours to Kansas, drive an hour to Pueblo. So at the end of the day,
if you guys win, does the whole world find out your secret? Or no, it's not
no.
Yeah.
No, that one's gonna stick with me for the foreseeable future. Although I feel like a lot of people probably have a good idea just based on things that have been said on this show. So if you really pay attention, you probably have a good idea what that is. But with that being said,
Southwest Kansas tattoo. It's a tramp stamp.
No comment. No comment.
Platform called LinkedIn. You might have your answer, but I don't know.
Here we go.
We got Coach Davis here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, moving on to those yearly awards. Krish, you had some picks.
Yeah, I think I wanted to give it to Javin Kilgo, MVP, but I'm gonna give it to Hollins. Of course, he chimes in. Out of nowhere, right? Hollins.
Right, exactly. No comments the entire time.
Perfectly. Hollins is gonna win MVP. I feel like he's played good throughout the season. It's going to be a toss-up, though, between him and Javin. They'll give it to Hollins, though. I feel like for Offensive Player of the Year, I would give it to Jaden Sutton. I feel like him coming in as a rookie, doing what he's doing, is really impressive. I think he can play for any team in the country. He's that good. And then, let's see, Defensive Player of the Year. Someone reached out to me and asked me who I thought would win, and it was someone who I thought could be a contender for it. But Evan, I'm gonna give it to. Realistically, I need to give it to Evan DiMaggio. I think he deserves it. 45 tackles and 7 sacks is so impressive.
He's been a pretty good player this year. I
think especially player of the year should go to Daquan Dudley. And that's no.
I might make an argument for it's Contreras, right? The kicker for Omaha.
Yeah, but he missed too many field goals this year. I love it. I think he's also really, really good, but I think he just if I look at it, let's see, if you look at the returning, the problem is you have to go on who has the most return yards this season, and that would be the one from Pueblo, the Kentuan Brown, or but Daquan Dudley. 526 kickoff return yards. You can't overlook that. So.
Good point. TJ, do you have any picks for these offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, and MVP? Special teams player of the year as well?
Yeah, man, for MVP, I'm kind of between Josh Hollins and Kilgo. They both been playing lights out this season. 33 touchdown passes for Kilgo. Hollins led in total passing yards. So it's going to be a close game, or it's going to be a close debate there. I kind of want to. I feel like they're going to give it to probably Joshua Hollins, though. Personally, special teams. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to pick different things besides what Chris said, but yeah, I kind of go with DiMaggio too. Led the league in sacks, has been a heck of a linebacker all season long. You could give it to I'm gonna butcher his name, but Mason McCoy. Led the league in interceptions at defensive back for Sioux City as well. So maybe he could be in the mix as well. Personally, for me, the beef, I really like Dudley too as a possible offensive player of the year. He's been huge at wide receiver this year for the beef, made a lot of great plays. Also done really good in kick returns as well. So, those would be my picks.
Fair point. I know I've said this before, and I know a lot of people are going to push back when I say this again. I would make a real case for Steve Newbold as MVP. And not, again, because of anything he's done on any one side of the ball or any one facet of the game, but his overall contributions to the Spartans. There is no player, in my opinion, that is more valuable to their individual team than Newbold in the league, which I know is a controversial statement, but the dude plays literally every facet of the game. He's on offense, he's on defense, he plays special teams. He's their primary receiver. He sometimes runs the ball. He's playing defensive back. He's their primary return man a lot of the time. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done this year. Is he going to win it? Not a chance in hell, just so we're all clear. But he deserves to be in the conversation. I think a lot of people are overlooking what he does start to finish rather than, looking at the whole picture. But in that same vein of what they have done over the larger picture of their resume, it's got to be Josh Hollins. Josh Hollins has been dangerous in the run game all season long. He has been by far the best passer in the league so far. So I strongly feel Josh Hollins needs to be the MVP.
And I want to make something real clear, though, real quick. And this is my last thing because I gotta leave. If they give Coach of the Year, and this is nothing against him personally, to Adam Loftus, I will boycott watching the championship game. I won't be watching the championship game. So Adam Loftus should not win Coach of the Year. It should be Coach Thomas or Coach Solo. That's my opinion.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, Loftus has done a great job, but that's similar to the same conversation we had about Castronova, right? He's only been a coach for 5 weeks, 6 weeks now. So I think that's a concern. I
don't know, that one I got to disagree with you.
That's fair.
I think he should be named president.
That's awesome. I personally again would say, give it to Coach Thomas. 9-1, first year in the NAL. I think he's done a great job. Solo's an interesting choice, and I think if you give it to Pueblo, you probably need to split it between both head coaches. But that's an interesting choice. He's done a really good job. He did a really good job all season long. Pueblo has been a contender most of the year, but you can make an argument that they have beat up on a lot of bad teams at times. I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying I could see that being a point of conversation in this award decision. With that being said, I think he's still a strong candidate. Defensive player of the year, I think that could go to a multitude of guys. There have been a lot of defensive players this year that have had a huge impact on their team. I like the guys that you guys said. DiMaggio, obviously, we mentioned him, 7 sacks, I think 45 tackles. Lavrangi, Vasan McCoy, he's got 7 interceptions. You can't really argue with that. Travion Mosby, 7 interceptions, same thing. So you can't really argue with that. Darren Hungerford has been, I think he led the league in tackles. He also had quite a few sacks and some other impact plays. But looking at the whole body of work, I think Hungerford's the guy for me. And actually, believe it or not, it's CJ Kane, the offensive coordinator from the Beef, that made me feel that way, because he threw the name out there, and I even questioned him in our group chat. You guys all saw it, and I was like, Hungerford, really? And then when I looked at his full body of work, he deserves to be, if not the favorite, he deserves to be very, very smack dab in the middle of that conversation because of what he's done. He's had a lot of impact plays in addition to leading the league in tackles. So I think he has a really strong case for that award. In terms of special teams player of the year, I think Krish hit the nail on the head. If it's not Daquan Dudley, then it needs to be Chase Contreras. I think he's played extremely well this year. Mason Pierce has also really been a solid player. And then you could also make an argument for Kevon Samuels down there in Salina. He's been a really good player as well. Another player that does a lot for Salina and often gets overlooked because of the fact that his full body of work is his big contribution, not necessarily in any one area. But Krish, are you still with us? I will have to be hopping off here in the very near future. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we will be hitting the road here soon, and it sounds like everybody is starting to wake up on my end, so we can start getting ready. But with that being said, we're going to take a brief commercial break. We will come back. We need to actually do our picks. I lied. Before we move on, we will do our picks for these games. TJ, you picked the Beef. Who do you have in the Salina and Pueblo game?
Oh man, that's a tough one too. You know what, man? I'm gonna roll with it, man. I've been digging what they've been doing all year. Pueblo. I just real quick, I did not think the dual head coaching situation would work out. Normally there's clashes and everything else, but man, the culture that they have there, it's worked out perfectly fine. You got to love that kind of result.
You're not wrong. I was also confused, or not confused, but I was a little concerned about that situation as well, because as you mentioned, it doesn't typically work out. I did, however, point out early that, Rob Keefe and Dixie Wooten made it work in Bay Area, but that's a significantly different situation, right? So I'm glad to see that it's worked out great for Pueblo, and I hope ultimately long run, we're talking about many years to come, how they've made it work there. However, I think personally, it's really, really hard to pick against Coach O. And that is not any indication of what I believe about Pueblo. I would love to see them win. Obviously, I'm from Colorado. I live an hour from Pueblo. So I would love to see the Punishers in the championship game in their first year as a team. Do I think it happens? It's tough. It's tough for me to see a scenario where Coach O loses at home, given what I know about him as a coach, given what I know about the Liberty and what they've done over the past few years that he's been there. It's just really, really hard to bet against him. So I have to be honest. I see Salina probably winning that game. Again, I would love to see Pueblo win, and that's, again, nothing against Coach O. It's just because, again, I'm from Colorado. So we'll see what happens, but I have a feeling it's going to be Southwest Kansas and Salina in the championship this season. But like I said before, I'm not entirely sold on either team in the the Southwest Kansas and Omaha game yet. I think that game is going to be incredibly competitive. It's going to be I'm so excited for this game because it's probably going to be one of the funnest games I've seen in a long time. But ultimately, I do have Southwest Kansas winning that game. So it would be quite interesting to see Southwest Kansas and Salina for, I believe, the 4th time this season in the championship game. So that would be an interesting way to close out the season for the NAL, in my opinion. But Krish, you still here? Do you want to give your picks before we move on? All right.
Yeah, I'll get my picks here real quick before I gotta go. So I like Salina. I've been betting against Pueblo all year, so I'm not gonna switch up now. I'm gonna pick Salina. Coach O, they'll go in there, they'll get the win. It'll be competitive though. It'll be a close game. It can go either way, honestly. And then Southwest Omaha, man. Southwest Kansas. Honestly, I feel like that defense is good enough for them to win the game. So, I like Southwest to win. Southwest Salina for the championship in Southwest. The biggest game of your professional career so far. So,
Here I am extending an olive branch, picking the Pirates earlier, and then he does me like that. Man, I'll tell you.
Well, we won't talk about why he did that, but that's all right. I wanted to pull this comment up too. A little shout out to the AAL too, perhaps, Mr. Roque. You might have a little bit of reason why you might be picking Mr. Hungerford there for the DPOY.
I respect you, AJ, but no way. He doesn't have the numbers to back that up.
I actually disagree.
Evan DiMaggio, 100%. But honestly, though, Evan DiMaggio wins. He's an American Early League too. Yeah.
Well, Peach State.
Peach State, yeah, but he played.
Yeah, I mean they weren't in the AAL too last year, but I would agree with you that that's a win for the AAL too because of coming off Peach State. So when you call it like that, yeah, if either of those guys wins, the AAL2 should be very excited about that for sure.
100%.
So Chris, you got to get out of here as well soon.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, we're going to try and wrap this bad boy up pretty quickly on the AAL and TAL section, and that's nothing against either league, just so we're all clear. I have to drive to Kansas, and I am 5 hours away. In order to make it for the game, I have to leave fairly soon, and apparently Krish also has some stuff going on. So with that being said, quick commercial break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the
into the end zone, touchdown! Russell has to step up in the pocket, has some room in front of him, gets 3-step drop, hits up the pressure, passes complete to Flowers, back to pass, pressure coming, has somebody in the end zone, touchdown! Russell, pressure's coming, Russell able to escape, still on his feet, and will be brought down at the looking, has plenty of time, has Flores at the 15, he's at the 10, and Russell has it on the outside. Like I said, he ain't taking a slide. Russell steps up, lets one go, Robinson makes the circus cat. There'll be a low snap, here comes the pressure, and the pass is going to be complete. And making the catch of Grant Russell. Russell, back to pass, looking, he has Robinson makes the catch, and will be brought down on the play by Isaiah Hall.
All right, we are back to talk about the AAL, and it's going to be a very interesting weekend of games for the AAL as we will be discussing the matchup between the Columbus Lions and the Wheeling Miners. As mentioned last time we discussed this game, this was kind of, in most people's mind, a preview of the championship game to come for the AAL. Wheeling and Columbus were the two favorites coming into the season. And not much has changed on that front as of yet. It basically, as of right now, they have, found a lot of success. So with that in mind, TJ, what are your thoughts on this game coming up this weekend?
Hey, man, well, the first matchup was must-see TV. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be any different this time around either. They're, the two top teams in the league so far. So it's going to be a heavyweight matchup, like you said, potentially a championship preview. And man, I feel like I can't go against the team whose hat I'm wearing. And no, man, I think Columbus is going to win it. I think it's going to be a closer game again. Like I said, must see TV. It's probably going to go down to the wire, but I think Columbus is gonna pull the victory out again.
Fair point.
And you also, unfortunately, it's out of their control, but the Miners also a little bit of rust potentially because of the whole hockey scheduling thing. So
Fair point. Fair point. I will say that based on some insider information, I hear the Miners are very hungry and very excited to play a football game. So I mean, as far as that goes, I think they're going to come into this game. They're going to come out firing, and I actually have Wheeling winning this game, partially because they're at home, and that home game I think is going to carry a particular energy after everything that's happened over the past couple of weeks with them in the hockey situation. So I think the fans are going to come out in force. They're going to be there and to support their team because they've missed a lot of games as of late. So I think a lot of fans were kind of, circling this game once they knew that the Nailers had lost in the playoffs. So I'm very excited that that's no longer an issue for the Miners and they can kind of move forward and focus on their season and then hopefully find the same kind of support that the Nailers did, early in the season during their playoff run. While the Miners were kind of having to step aside and take a back seat there for a little while. But with that in mind, I do have a feeling that the Miners are the kind of the team of destiny tonight, or not tonight, this weekend, I guess you could say. So I'm very excited to see how that game breaks out as well. All right. So apparently we were removed on Facebook because of some sort of something. We're really weird. But anyway, with that being said, there's a lot of other good games and information coming out of the AAL this weekend. In fact, I don't have the schedule right off the top of my head. Maybe Mr. Roque can inform us who exactly he is playing this evening because I have not checked as of yet. But with that in mind as well, TJ, we talked a little bit about it last week with Montgomery coming into the league, with Texas coming into the league, and so far no further announcements. But some other things have popped up around other leagues that might pique curiosity if you're an AAL fan. And the reason I wanted to kind of bring this all up is a couple days ago we saw a statement come out from the NAL regarding the Frisco Steam, who then put out another statement themselves that said we were not considering the NAL, basically. So with that in mind, there's only really realistically two other teams that they could two other leagues they could potentially go to, and in my mind, that's the NAL, the AAL and the AF1. There had been some images that have been shared around that they had a specific logo on their jersey. But there's also speculation that after the Texas Wild Hogs announced, the Steam could find their way over to the AAL. So with that in mind, I wanted to ask you in particular, if the Steam are the next possible move for the AAL in Texas, what other teams might you see joining the fold there? And are there any teams to you that make sense currently in other leagues that might make some sense for the AAL?
I mean, I think it would make sense. Some people may look and say, not one but two Texas-based teams in the same league, but at the same time, it would definitely cut down on travel, and they are far enough away where they would have different fan bases. Obviously Texas is a huge state, so population-wise, they wouldn't really have to worry about that. In terms of other teams, I mean, I personally, I've been, I don't know if whatever I'm going to say. I've been hearing rumors living in Pennsylvania that a potential Pennsylvania-based IAL team may be looking to move next season, which would make sense for the AAL because, obviously they have a strong Northeast presence. There's, the Jersey Bearcats. So I could see them moving over. I think they're called the Benjamins or something like that. To be honest with you, I kind of have not been paying attention to the IAL at all, for obvious reasons, but before I digress, I could see that happening. Just with the announcements of the Southern teams, we'll say, from the AL, it really opens up the door because now you can have teams down there, you can have teams up here, and you can also, in the right spots, have teams bridge the travel gap as well. you could really see them start to kind of spider web out, stay connected, but still branch out at the same time. And so far, that's what you've been seeing them do. And I really like it. I think it's a very smart, strategic way to do things.
Agreed. And that would be a very interesting addition to the league, assuming that happens, the Pennsylvania Benjamins, because of the proximity to Wheeling and Jersey, and would honestly make for some really interesting rivalries there for both of those teams, given the regional bias there. So that would be a really fun addition to the league. I question how that would work, because to my knowledge, everybody in the IAL or every team in the IAL is centrally owned. I know that, Greg Fornario, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, is involved, but I believe his role was as GM. So that's the one question I have there with that franchise. But, if somehow, some way they do separate from the IAL, that would make perfect sense for all parties involved, especially if the IAL doesn't end up, existing any further into the future. AJ reminds me that it's Mississippi at Jersey, 6 p.m. tonight. So with that in mind, who do you have in this game?
Ooh. You know what? I gotta go with Jersey. I gotta go with the home team. But again, I think this game's going to be a lot closer than many people think. I think it's going to go down to the wire. These two teams faced off in the AL2 championship last year, went down literally to the final play. So I'm going to pick Jersey, though, because they are at home.
Fair point. I'm going to roll with Jersey as well. Mississippi's had some of their struggles this season. Would love to see them get a win, but at the same time, I just Bearcats got to be the favorite in this game, and they're at home. So I'll just leave it at that. Mississippi closes out the season with 2 more road games after this, and that's a tough way to end the schedule. I know, granted, Eddie was very aware and okay with the schedule ahead of time, just based on the way the AAL operates, but that's a tough way to close out the year for any team. Brian says Austin and possibly Beaumont. I could see Beaumont. There is very little possibility in my mind that Austin, if you mean the Falcons, ever plays in the AAL. If you paid attention a couple of years ago, at the time, the Dallas Falcons were a part of the AAL2. Then they weren't mid-season. So just saying, I don't think that relationship is going to – I don't think they're going to go back down that road. I could be wrong. That's not insider information. That's just me reading the tea leaves based on what's happened in the past. But what happens there, I'm not sure. So Cody chiming in. He's probably on his way to Southwest Kansas or Dodge City right now. So coming on to Kansas City.
Brian brought up a good point, that potentially 3 AAL teams in Texas. You add another one. I mean, there's such thing as too much, but there's also, strategically placing. You could have your own Texas division. That could you could really work that rivalry up.
Right. And I think, let's be honest. We had AJ Roque on here last week, and he left some pretty telling breadcrumbs during that interview. I'm not going to sit here and rehash everything he said in that, but I strongly recommend, if you're following the AAL and you want to have any idea of what's in store for them, go back and listen to that interview, because he tells you a lot without telling you a lot. So with that in mind, I mean, he basically flat out said, we are not looking to bring in teams that don't make sense regionally. With that in mind, you have to understand, logically speaking, there's probably more teams coming, whether it's in Texas or in the surrounding areas, because they're not just going to add one Texas team and have them travel to the East Coast all year long. That's not in their business model. So with that being said, and given the comments that AJ made last week, I have to believe there are other Texas teams coming in that, whether it's, Beaumont, which I don't know, that seems like an odd fit to me. Or, whether it's Austin or I've heard Corpus Christi floating out there. I've heard Odessa. I've heard Midland. I've heard Abilene. Man, I've heard so many Texas teams heading into next season. It's unreal. We'll see, who actually comes to fruition, but I could definitely see a couple more Texas teams being added to the AAL for 2027 for sure. And I would say it's very logical to say that's likely to happen at some point. So, along with everybody else, we're just going to have to stay tuned because, I don't think anybody has those answers quite yet. Although I'm sure a lot is in the works behind the scenes for the league. But we've talked about the big news out of the AAL. We have done our picks for almost every other league. We did not do our AF1 picks, so we will circle back around, do the AF1 picks real quick, and then we will move on to a little bit of TAL stuff before we wrap this bad boy up. Second show, 2 weeks in a row, and we're going to be right around 2 hours. I know, it's pretty unreal. Pretty unreal. I know you guys aren't used to it here, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll make it work. So for the AF1, we have 3 more games this weekend. We have tonight the Minnesota Monsters take on the Nashville Cats. We have the Oregon Lightning taking on the Kentucky Barrels, which we already know was canceled. And we also have the Wolfpack versus the Oceanside Bombers. So as discussed, the Barrels will take a forfeit win in this game, most likely. We got the Monsters versus the Cats, the Wolfpack versus the Bombers in Oceanside. Who do you have in those 2 games?
I'm going to take the Cats and probably a pretty close one. And then I will take the Wolfpack in probably I'm going to say with everything going on, a slightly one-sided affair.
Fair point. And it was brought to my attention as well that there was a new defensive coordinator for Michigan last night, and that may have assisted a little bit in their success. So keep an eye on that. But also have heard that Cream Morris is out in Oceanside, so I do think that's going to cause a little bit of chaos there behind the scenes. So I fully anticipate Washington's going to go into Oceanside and smack them in the mouth and get a win here. As far as the Monsters Cats game, that's going to be the game of the week for me. I think both of these teams are very, very well constructed. They're both very talented. I do think Nashville gets out of there with a win because they're the home team, but much like TJ said, I expect that to be a close game, very competitive. So we're going to move over to the Arena League. Let me pull up that schedule real quick, as I did not have it handy. I apologize. The computer issues this morning are kind of causing me a little bit of a headache here to try and keep everything straight. But the big announcement out of the Arena League this week, if you did not catch it, is that they are now working with the Ballers website, VIPballers.com. And essentially this is designed to give fans more access to players. So you can chat and DM the players directly. You can request custom videos and shout outs. You can book one-on-one video calls, get coaching tips, or even join exclusive live streams by the league. So just a way that the TAL is continuing to try and build up their players and try and work in ways for these players to develop some other forms of income, whether it's the NIL type deals, or find ways that the fans will help support them. But with that being said, any thoughts on that move?
I mean, it sounds pretty cool. It's interactive for the fans and stuff like that. I mean this in total honesty and just sincerity. Maybe also work on your updated stats and stuff on the website.
That's a fair
it's
point.
awesome that you're going above and beyond, but don't forget the basics either,
No, I think that's a fair point. That is a very fair point. Because at the end of the day, they do need to focus on both aspects, and they really need to get some stats out there and stuff, because that stuff's important for elevating players. So I think that's something that they need to pay close attention to. And hey, just saying, you guys need somebody to run your stats department, we can maybe assist in that. So with that being said, there are 4 games this evening, and it's St. Joe at Iowa, Eau Claire at Nebraska, Memphis at Ozarks, and Arkansas at Monroe, which the league is calling the game of the week. So who do you have? St. Joe's at Iowa.
St. Joe's at Iowa. You got to go with St. Joe's. I know Iowa is at home, but Iowa has not been looking good this year. They got dropped pretty big by Memphis last week. On the flip side, St. Joe's, destroyed the Ozarks. So I'm going to go with St. Joe's in this one.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm actually picking St. Joe's as well. Iowa having home field advantage is definitely a factor, and I think it's going to be closer than some of the other games, but St. Joe's rolling right now. The one caveat to that is they did have a quarterback injury for St. Joe's, and they will be rolling with a new quarterback they just signed, which is always a concern, but I still have faith in what St. Joe's is doing there. Eau Claire at Nebraska.
I mean, listen, the Siege have been playing excellent this whole time. Everything that their general manager said to me and Cedric in our interview a few months back has come to fruition. At the same time, though, we also happen to have an official team show. So I feel obligated to pick the Axemen. But no, I mean, the Axemen have shown a lot of improvement. They almost pulled off a win last week, and I'm going for Coach Britt. So I'm looking for the Axemen to pull the upset off.
Fair point. Fair point. So you heard it here first, Nebraska. I mean, if you want us to root for you and pick you in your games, you got to give us a team show. So I'm just saying. No, just kidding. I'm actually picking Nebraska. I've been on their hype train all season. I'm going to continue to remain on their hype train because I really like the way they built their roster. So I think Nebraska is going to get the win in this one. Plus they're the home team. Eau Claire played really well last week, fell just shy of a win. And I think they'll play really well again this week. I think they're headed the right direction. But Nebraska, again, is a really good team, and they're at home. So excited to see that Nebraska crowd tonight, by the way, especially given that they don't have regional competition with Omaha playing at home tonight. So that is interesting to see how that affects the crowd. But Memphis at Ozarks. This is going to be a really, really good game.
Yeah, it's Memphis came back last week after getting really manhandled. Came back, showed their worth, got a win over Iowa in big fashion. I just, man, the Lunkers though. I don't know. I know they're at home, but man, they gave up almost 80 points last week. I think I'm going to pick the road team. I'm going to go with Memphis.
We are in the same wavelength right now. Ozarks has something to prove to me. Memphis, on the other hand, has played fairly well as far as an expansion team. So I think they get the win tonight. It would not surprise me, however, to see Ozarks get a win at home. It would not shock me at all. I think last week was kind of an outlier, but we'll see. We'll see. Arkansas at Monroe. Again, this is the game of the week according to the league. And just for anybody who is not aware, all four of these games are tonight. All four of them kick off at 7:05 p.m. Central Time. So lots of football on tonight. But Arkansas at Monroe. TJ, who you got?
This one to me is kind of a coin toss. Both teams have had, some good showing and then also some bad showing so far in the first 2 weeks. I'm going to go with Monroe simply because I think home field advantage might be what they need to make the difference in the final score.
Fair point. Oh man. First of all, I'm very excited to see the theme night for Monroe. I believe it's a funeral night or something like that, which is like by far the craziest promotion I've ever seen by a team. Kudos to that organization for figuring out that. But I think I'm going to go with Monroe because they're at home. I'm very, very curious to see attendance. I think you hire 2 coaches that have local ties. That's really incredibly smart by the organization. And hopefully that translates to a lot of fans and stands. But I also really like how Monroe has built that roster, and I think they're very talented, and they're going to probably going to get a win in front of their home crowd tonight, which realistically I think would be best case scenario for the TAL. If your expansion teams come out and get some wins in front of the home crowd, build up some hype, get the fans excited, and have them prepared for what looks to be a promising future for really all of these expansion teams, because all of them, despite the run up to the league this season and despite the questions that we all had about how it was coming together, they all look to be fairly well run. Now, granted, that's my opinion. Do you feel the same, TJ?
Oh yeah, it's like I said before, man. They've slow built, and it may not have given the amount of time we would like to as fans, longtime fans of the sport. But man, I mean, you can't say anything bad. I've not seen anything that would make me want to turn the TV off and say, "Man, this is bad football." It's all been good so far.
Agreed. And honestly, like, all the organizations seem to be intact and doing a pretty good job. But with that being said, we're kind of ready to wrap this bad boy up. As I mentioned, I got to hit the road. We got places to be. I believe the saying's "get out of Dodge." We're headed to Dodge, so we got to get there. But with that being said, appreciate everybody who tuned in this morning. We've had a pretty consistent live audience. You have not gotten a ton of likes, so if you guys could hit that thumbs up, that'd be great. But we will catch you guys next Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. As always, we really appreciate all the love and support, and we look forward to each and every episode with you guys. So catch you next week, and look forward to a lot of great football tonight.
Yo, what's good? Cedric the bus driver here. I don't know about you guys, but I know what I will be doing every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Thursday nights too. I'll be over at Shady Sports Network, so catch up with me. Holla at your boy.